Hey everyone, it's Dan here from Your Guitar Academy, and today we're going to be starting our 3-lesson odyssey into learning Under the Bridge by Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's a classic, probably the best song they've ever written, or certainly one of. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. But this is certainly the most fun to play for me. I just love the intricacy of this song. I love using the cage system, because Frusciante is an absolute master of the cage system. So it really comes across in this piece. It's like a perfect study piece, if you like, if you're working on cage chords and that kind of identifying chords within licks, or licks within chords, I should say. So it's perfect for that. Now, in this lesson, as you heard from us playing it with the band, and thank you again to Camille and Harrison, they played amazing, as usual, we're going to be doing just the intro part, okay? So really, all the intro is a D major to an F sharp major. Really nice kind of movement there. I really like it. Typically, you'd go from a D major to an F sharp minor. That's kind of going essentially from the 1 to the 3, but we're making that 3 major in this case, which gives it this kind of really cool vibe, different kind of vibe. I really love that. So that's all we're doing, except we're using the C-shaped cage chord for the D. Okay, so typically, rather than just kind of open chord, D major, we're going to be using the C-shaped cage chord, which looks like this. So you've got root, 3rd, 5th, and root again. Okay? If you've never played this chord before in your life, then you want to be getting over onto the club and checking out our cage chord courses, because then we'll go through these in great detail. For now, I'm going to assume you know this shape and we can start learning how to play it within this song. So fundamentally, it's absolute basic. That intro is just like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have this little where we go from D major up to the E major, so we just move the shape along. Okay, we only really hear the low strings of that. And then back to the F sharp. 1, 2, 3. Then we go again, so D major. 1, 2, 3. F sharp major. 2, 3. Then again we have this D, and then this little D, E, F sharp. 2, 3. So that's all very well and good, but it sounds pretty bog standard just doing it like that. But that does help you practice those basic cage shapes. So that's the first thing I would suggest doing. Then we're going to start to do the intricacies, the arpeggiating through these chords. So it kicks off like this. Okay. So all I'm doing there is I'm starting with an octave. So I'm going to play the root note of the D, and I'm going to play the octave of the D within that same chord shape. I'm just going to pluck that with my kind of plectrum there on the A, and on the B, I'm just going to hybrid pick it. So I use my 3rd finger there, my middle finger, to pluck the octave above. Okay. Then I do this pattern. So I go down, 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 up, and then I jump over to the B and up to the G. Okay. That's the basic pattern that you're going to need to learn. So I'll do it one more time. Now, as we then move into the F sharp, we're going to do a nice little joining lick, which is this. Okay, so all this is I'm just walking down from the 4th fret, 2nd fret, open string, then the 4th fret on the E string before hitting my F sharp. Okay, so far we have this. Okay, and that moves me into my F sharp, where I'm going to go. So again, same picking pattern on the F sharp. I'm starting on the E string now, down, 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 up, and then jump into the G string, and then back to the D string, okay? You've also got an optional, you can, if you're feeling confident enough, you can again use the hybrid picking to hit the major 3rd on top of that chord. So i.e. this G string note here within the chord shape when you go to that chord. So that will sound like this. Oh, no one. Okay, much harder to do. Normally when I play that, I don't bother with that. I'm pretty convinced that that John Frusciante does that as an overdub when he's actually recorded this, okay, those kind of higher octaves. But certainly the D major is easier to do. If you can do the F sharp, go for it, that's absolutely fine. But from my point of view, I just go like this. You get the good stuff there, all the good stuff that you need, okay? So up to this point, we've got this. Now we're going to move back to the D with this little riff. Okay, so it's a similar kind of idea. Okay, this one actually leading up to the D. So we go to the 4th fret of the D string, then the 2nd fret, then the open string, then the 2nd fret of the A string. Okay. So I've sat in front of many students over the years watching this part unfold, and it's kind of messy initially. It's just really fiddly, and you've got to learn how to, it's kind of like the process of learning how to kind of play the chord as you're forming it, rather than waiting for the chord to get completely down and then you play it. It's kind of the way you would do arpeggios, essentially. So this bit sounds like this. Okay. So all I'm doing here is gradually forming the D major chord, and I'm starting with a little hammer on from the 4th to the 5th, getting my little finger on the root, okay? Then I go and play the major 3rd, and I do a little back and forth here, look at this. So notice how the rest of the chord hasn't even gone down yet. I'm really just focusing on this bit. Okay, and again. And then I'm going to start going through the rest of the chord, so the next bit I've now formed where the 5th is and the major 3rd, so now I've got this part of the chord together, and I play those 2 notes. One more time. Okay. And then finally, I'm going to come up to the octave of the D, and I'm going to do a little flicky. Okay, little flicky there. So that's the idea of taking the 3rd fret and hammering onto the 5th fret on the B string, and then coming back down to the 5th down here on the 2nd fret of the G string. So all together you get this. So that bit is particularly fiddly, guys, so really do take your time with that part. It's also worth bearing in mind that if you are interested in the kind of inside of this, how this works and why this works, why that flicky is there, you know, it is part of that cage system fun, this idea that underneath this particular shape, you have got your pentatonic box 4, and we're kind of using those notes to kind of play around with these flicky bits, okay? All of that is explained in great detail in our Unlocking Major Cage chord course, so go and check that out if you're interested. So, there we have it. There's that bit there, okay? And that's really the hardest bit. As soon as you've done that flicky part, you're then gonna go that D, E that I talked about, and then back to the F sharp. And after that, it just starts to get repetitive. So let me just play up to that point. I'm gonna do it with a drum beat, okay? So our drum beat sounds like this. I'm playing at 70 BPM here, so it's a little bit slower than the original. But I would highly recommend trying to play it with the drum beat, or at least getting your foot tapping whilst you're trying to do this kind of intricate part. So 1, 2, 3, 4. In fact, let's drop that down. Let's go down to make it reasonable for you guys to listen to. We'll go 55. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where we've got to, okay? So just pause and rewind, go over that bit as many times as you need. Let's fill out the final parts of this intro. So now it's kind of rinse and repeat. We kind of do the same thing over again. There's a couple of little variations. So as we're going back into the D, we're going to do that same link. So that same idea, exactly the same thing when we're going from the F sharp to the D. And we start the next bit exactly the same as well, like this. Only difference here is we don't do the flicky bit. Okay, so the second time around when we come back from this link, we just play that high note rather than do the flick on that B string note, okay? Then we go back through the F sharp. Then again. But this time with the flick, D, E, and then back to the F sharp. And we just finished that last F sharp with one extra little pick pattern where we're going to go from the G, D, A. So we get normal picking pattern, and then we kind of do that last bit twice, okay? So let me slow that drum beat down again, okay? And I'm just going to, let's go down to 50 this time. And let's just try the whole intro, okay? 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that would bring us into our verse, which is what we're going to do in the next lesson. Now, just one or two little tips here, because that part is super fiddly. There's loads going on. Even though at its core, it's just D major to F sharp with the odd E major thrown in there, it is very tough to play. And actually, from my experience watching students gradually piece this together, is the hardest thing to get is that fluidity of the sound. It's quite often that we'd hear something like this. You know, that kind of, I've learned it in these pieces and now these pieces remain as pieces, but learn it as those little individual bits as I've taught it, but then work with the drum beat, work with some kind of metronome to try and get it together. Just like if you're a beginner guitarist, and I'm always telling you, you know, even if it's really tough going from the D to the G, for example, the most important thing is the flow is right, even if the chords don't sound perfect. And it's the same with something like this. We can gradually refine the playing and the chords and everything like that, but try and get the rhythm and the flow as good as you can, certainly after you've learned the initial chord parts anyway. So there we have it, guys. Enjoy that, and I'm going to see you in the next video where we're going to do the verse of this track.